Some time ago, I picked up James Hornfischer's book, Neptune's Inferno, about the campaign on Guadalcanal. It was great, and therefore I was really interested to get this one. It tells the story of our Navy's war in the Pacific from the beginning of 1944 through 1945, the end of the war, and so on. What's great about this is to read the story of the period when our Navy was hitting on all cylinders. The thing that makes the story so interesting is that even though we had at that time overwhelming material superiority, it still took considerable strategic, tactical, and individual judgment to pull off a victory, even though along the way we made some mistakes. On the strategic level, Hornfischer focuses his attention on Raymond Spruance, Kelly Turner, and Paul Tibbets. Raymond Spruance was the overall fleet commander, and I'll tell you what, he just continues to impress me as maybe the most outstanding Navy commander we had in the Pacific. Kelly Turner, on the other hand, was the admiral in charge of the amphibious arm of Spruance's fleet. His willingness and his ability to innovate really stands out. And finally, Paul Tibbets, the third guy, wasn't in the Navy at all. He was an Army Air Corps officer who ended up, if you recall, dropping the first atomic bomb on Japan. Now, the book devotes a substantial amount of space to two related campaigns, the Battle for Saipan and the Battle of the Philippine Sea. Now, Saipan merits a lot of attention for a couple of key reasons. First, it was an important stepping stone in the campaign to get air bases way far out in the Pacific. Those bases would be used to get B-29s within range of the Japanese home islands. But the other impact it had was on long-term U.S. strategy towards Japan and the Japanese people. What impressed U.S. commanders was the suicidal refusal to surrender of both Japanese soldiers and civilians. Hornfischer's description of all this is both detailed and, if you know anything about it, it's frankly horrifying. Now, that suicidal fanaticism directly led to our decision to avoid a land invasion by all means. That, in turn, led to our use of firebombing and ultimately the atomic bomb. Hornfischer gives a very detailed and a very useful analysis of how that played into our decision-making as we got near the end of the war. Now, the Battle of the Philippine Sea included really important air and surface components. The air component included the famous Marianas Turkey Shoot. Hornfischer goes into great detail on the conduct of that battle, including lots of, I'll call them up-close and personal experiences of the participants, including the pilots and individual sailors. The overall significance of this battle was that it completely destroyed Japan's ability to project air power across the Pacific. Now, one of the standouts for me of Hornfischer's treatment of the Battle of the Philippine Sea was his description of Spruance's ultra-cool, non-emotional decision-making. Now, the book also has a few detours that I found particularly interesting, and I'll give you one example. Hornfischer describes in some detail how underwater demolition teams, the guys we call SEALs, came into existence, and then how Admiral Turner used them at Saipan and Tinian. Absolutely great stuff. Now, there's more like that in this book, and I can't really get into them here. The only dissatisfaction I had with the book was the maps. There aren't enough of them, and they're mostly high-level views of of the campaigns. But when he gets into the nitty-gritty of what was actually going on, I would have appreciated much more detailed maps. But I've got to say, that's a complaint I have with a lot of popular military histories. All in all, I thought this was an excellent history of the last year of the war. I completely recommend it to any of you who are World War II junkies. Give it a try. I'll see you next week.